G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now, as promised, this will be a box open and review of this wonderful kit by Modellers Shipyard, who are an Australian wood ship making company. Yes, wood ship, model ship, that is. I don't think they make big ships, model ships, okay? And this is the Brig Perseverance, as she was in 1807. And it's a merchantman, and it's a very big kit. It's almost 900, it's 880 millimeters, right? So that's a yard in the old scheme. It's a yard. It's big. It's probably the biggest kit that I have ever made, and we're going to start on it soon. So, would you like to see what's in the box? Great. Roll the music. Now, this lovely big kit was a present or a gift from a lovely fellow that watches my channel, one of my fans. And he wants to remain anonymous, so we'll just call him Dave. Anyhow, Dave had begun this kit. He got this far. He had just built basically the ribs for the hull. That's it. And I'll show you all about that. That's all he's done. So really, he's hardly even broken the back of it, so to speak. We have all the fun of this kit still to do, and that's the planking and all the fiddly bits and all the, everything, masts, rigging, you name it, that's all going to get done. So I'll still explain what the method is and what the procedure was to get to that stage, and it's a bit involved, and he's done an absolutely lovely job. If you look down there, everything is perfectly level, which is what you're trying to achieve. So he's already done that. He's put the false keel in. It's all there. It's all ready for the rest of the work. Okay, let's have a look inside the box. Now, it is a huge box. The box itself is close to 1 metre long. So we'll only be able to see a portion of it at a time, but that's enough to show you what's going on. Now, we'll quickly go through the contents. There is a huge book, an absolutely enormous book that I will go through in detail, because this would have to be one of the nicest ways to explain how to build a wood ship that I've ever seen. Really, at least you've got to be able to speak English, because it's only in English. I don't know if they do other languages. But for an Australian who's never built a boat before, well, not me, but I have, but for anybody who hasn't ever built a boat, you could use this manual, work from end to end, and you would get a result. And everything is in the order that I prefer, which to me seems the simplest and easiest way to go about it. You know, not that there's only one way to skin a cat. I mean, you know, if you're an expert shipbuilder, you can do all kinds of amazing things. But for most of us who want to build a wooden ship, we need a simple method, and this book provides it. It's brilliant. And it's what I would have shown in my bounty video. In fact, I will. The only reason we're not doing the bounty video first is because I promised Dave that I would build this for him. That was the deal. He gave me this kit. Now, this kit's worth about 50 shekels. Yes, a lot of money. But he wasn't able to do it. His eyesight, his health's just not there. He said, Harry, could you build it for me, and I'll enjoy the build through you? Yes, I will. I will do that. I've had it for 2 months now and haven't done a bloody thing. Okay, so what we got here? We've got cards to start with. No, not playing cards. These are absolutely lovely. Everything is marked with a number as to what the part is, what it is. So you know straight away in here, right, you have got rudder hinges, nails, and cargo ports. And there they are. Everything is labelled nicely. Everything is easy to find. Admittedly, we're only working in one language here, so that does make it easier. A lot of the other kits, you know, they're in Spanish, they're in English, they're in French, they're in, you know, Japanese. Yeah, exactly. I'm spoiled here. Australian kit for Australian builders. Another one here, we've got some lovely flags. We've got all the dead eyes and the pulley blocks that we need. We've got a beautiful anchor. All the parts are beautiful. They're not cartoonish. It's not going to be sort of a, you know, there's some wooden kits out there, not to mention any names Latina. Oh, no, some of their kits are good. But there are some kits that are very cartoonish. You put it together, it looks like a toy boat. This will build into an absolute scale replica of the real ship. That's what I want. That's what I want, you know. Cordage, all supplied, all divided up, even tells you what they are. Anchor rope, rigging cord. And what we've got here, rigging cord fawn, 0.5 millimetre. Right, everything, there's no mystery. Like in a lot of the ship kits you get, it's all a big mystery. Unless you know, unless you're in the inner circle, unless you're in the inner circle of trust, right? I'm looking at you. Yes, things aren't explained. They're assumed you know how to do all this. And of course, a lot of us don't. right? Even I'm learning things as I go. I've built a lot of ships, a hell of a lot of ships. I've built a lot of wood ships, but I'm learning. I learnt doing the plastic bounty. I learnt doing the wooden bounty, and I'll continue to learn, and that's okay. That's what it's all about. That's half the fun, is, basically discovering things, learning stuff, trying new techniques. Now, what I really like here is the boats that go on the ship, right? So the little lifeboats, sailboats, whatever, okay? They're wood. They're actually carved wood, which is terrific. I mean, often in the other kits you get their steel or some sort of anodised, zinc or plastic, God forbid, which is what they give you in billing boats kits. It's a bit horrible. This means my model is going to be consistent. Wooden boats on a wooden ship. They look lovely. I'm going to be able to stain those. And the other thing too is they have a card in here of laminate, and it's all the parts for that boat. So you can't go wrong. You pull that out, you build everything on it, that's that one done. It's beautiful. Everything's laid out lovely. What we've got here, this looks like some lattice, some netting rail, some pin stands, a binnacle, parrel beads. Just lovely, just lovely. Now included, good old Dave threw these in, are planking clamps. Now if you'd seen my build on the Bounty, and I did it on balcony marina number 2, I showed my method. Haven't shown it physically, I explained it because it was so much detail to really go into it. I will do another video on the Bounty where I actually put the planks on the frame, because I know a lot of you are asking for that bit. You see the theory, you understand the principles, and I explained all the mathematics as best as I could. But we will go actually into the dynamics and how you physically put a plank on and what you do and how you bend it. Now these, I had used just draw pins. Well, they're not draw pins. I suppose they are. They're push pins with little coloured ends on. I'd use those. These are actually screws. They're little screws, planking clamp. It's a planking clamp screw. Fascinating. We will examine those, see how they work, and they look like the best way to secure planks. Certainly, we'll compare it. We'll compare it to my draw pin, and I use those fold-back clips to hold in place. We'll see which one is easier to use. We've got them anyway. Might as well use them. Lots and lots and lots and lots of dowels and thin strips for planking and you name it. Now this is a double planked ship, so we have thicker planks, which are going to be very soft wood. They're going to be the creamy coloured ones. That'll be the first layer of planking. So this second layer of planks, these are the precious wood. This is the pretty stuff. And this is what's going to stain up beautifully. And that's the layer that you want to fit together, pretty well perfect. And anyhow, by the time you have planked all those, that first layer, you've really got the hang of it. So you're all warmed up, you know the shape of the hull. No matter how many ships you've got under your belt, hull shapes are always different, unless you're building exactly the same type. But going from my Bounty, which has a stub nose, a bull nose, right? And then it has quite a sharp sort of tail on it. This is much more sleek. It has a much more pointy nose. It has quite a lot of upturn at the rear. It's a Brig. It's much different. So we'll examine the differences between, say, planking a Bounty and planking a Brig. There's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. Now this is a invaluable piece of advice, and this should be in every single wood kit. Modellers Shipyard goes through in very simple language. They try not to use complicated terms. They express things. I can't even talk. I can't even do it. They express things in generalities and simplistic, plain speech, right? So there's a difference between reading a legal contract and reading one of those modern ones, which are a simple speak. They're a big difference. So it goes through and gives you all the tips you would need to avoid the major traps in getting your rigging incorrect, or at least getting to the point where you're so frustrated because things just don't go together. And that's the thing, if you get your rigging right, it's a lot easier. Okay, so it goes through all that. It is generic. It is generic, specific for this kit. It is generic for, although it's got the photo of this model, really it talks about any kind of ship, any kind of wooden ship, how to rig it. And there's even a 3 DVD set, so they're doing a bit of a plug there. But that is quite lovely. But you don't even need this. Quite frankly, the instructions when we get to them are so good, are so simple. Lay this here, put this here, add this there. It's one of the first models I've ever seen where they really go to detail to tell you which block to use, which line to use, which not to use, how to tie it and where it goes. Many of you have contacted me and I've put you onto that rigging book that I use. Okay, the Art of Period Ship Rigging for Scale Modelers, which is absolutely fantastic. This kit is almost like that book expanded but specific for this model. It's that good. Another wonderful fact sheet that they give you in here are planking tips, and again, these are really good. They've dumbed it down, they've made it simple, they've made it easy for anybody who's doing their first time planking. If you'd seen my second video on the balcony marina, they go into everything I talked about there, all the things about fairing your hull, you know, your frame, about setting up for your steelers and your wedges, and how to measure everything and what to do. It's all here. It's all here. And then they even went into, I didn't really show this in much detail, but basically beveling your planks when they turn. So when you turn around a curve in the hull, basically how that beveling works. And then they even explain plank bending. There's just so much, and they go on about, of course, their little screws. So, you know, double planking, deck planking, it's all there. And then they have the lovely diagram, which I think I've shown in other videos, which gives you an idea, this is what you're aiming for, this is what it's going to look like. So having that pictorial representation of how the planks curve, so you can understand the regions. As I explained in my video, there are 3 regions on every ship, and they're always different, unless the ships are identical, right? But basically you need to work out those 3 regions, and the way you tackle the planking is different for each region. And not only do they explain it here, you wait till we see instructions, they literally hand it to you on a platter saying, here are the regions. You don't even have to try and figure it out for yourself. We'll show you. These are your 3 regions. This is how you do your measurements. Off you go. Now, this frame of lovely bit of plywood here, a bit of laminated wood. Well, we've already had that attacked by Dave. He's already pulled out the basically the frames and the false keel, and that's already out. The main keel is still in there, and it's rather nice the way they've cut this. I've never seen this done before. They've cut the shape of the ship, and then the actual stem, the real keel, the actual stern, and the rudder, they're all there sitting in place. So it's not like you have to hunt around the kit to try and find them. There they are. That's what you're looking for. And he's used all the formers, right? So all the formers have already been taken out, and he's done those. Well, we'll explain how that's done when we have a look at the instructions. This sheet he has attacked, but let's see what, oh no, it wasn't going to stay together. He had already popped out and had a look at basically the false deck. So here's his frame. And one of the first things you'll do to your frame is you'll put in the false deck so that you get its shape. Okay, so that's it. And his false deck fits perfectly, which means he has put his frame together spot on. Absolutely correct. So we'll talk about that more as we move on. Also on this sheet, we have got various little pieces that basically form shapes and bits. That's a transom, I know that. Identify that straight out of the box. There's lots of other little pieces that prop up this, and these are actually for on the masts. These go underneath the fighting platforms, I know that. And here's the fighting platforms there. Those are the 2. Only 2 masts, so really we have, I mean, the Bounty was 3 masts, but this has literally got half the rigging. You don't have as much in the way of ratlines, you don't have the amount of stay. Literally your rigging is halved, absolutely halved. This, I believe, is the stand. Yes, that's the stand. And these are all probably for hatches and things and goodness knows what. So we shall find out. Board 3, all laser cut. I mean, this technology now where everything is cut for you is just amazing. And I think I remarked in other videos when I first started doing boats, you get the kit, it was just all balsa wood and, you know, maybe a bit of laminate and a great big sheet that you folded out to scale of your model, and you had to lay your parts on top of that and pin them and cut them and shape them to the plan. That was it. It was none of this, you know, just pop it out. So this is quite revolutionary for me to have the parts that are already cut, and all you really got to do is sand them and just check their shape. Okay, that's what's in the box. And as you can see, it's not, well, I don't think it's a lot. I mean, I've got ships that the boxes fill up very full with all kinds of things. So for me, this is actually quite an easy kit. 2 masts, simple rigging. The planking is actually quite easy on this one. You don't have that horrible bull nose that you do on the Bounty, and you'd have that like on the Endeavour and a few other ships that are like that. The more pointy your nose, the easier it is to plank. Why? Well, if you've got a bull nose like that, you've got to bend your planks all the way around. There's a lot of bending and therefore a lot of twisting. If you've got a pointy nose, your planks sit so much easier. Okay, let's have a look at this instruction book. Now, if you've been watching up to this point, you'll notice there's something missing from this kit that's in every other woodship kit. And that is, normally you get these giant fold-out scale drawings that are the same as the ship, and they will fold out right across your table and you will build on them. And that's how we used to do things. Not Modellers Shipyard. No, we don't have big fold-out plans. Where are they, you ask? Well, let's have a look at this book, and then I'll be able to explain what their solution is for that building things to a plan. And they have a much better idea, and it's quite clever. All right, so we open up the book, and straight away they give you the history of the ship. Okay, tell you it was a 136-ton brig, and it was made in Sydney. Okay, owned by Robert Campbell. All right, tells you all about it. I won't go into that history for now. You can Google that, and you'll be able to find out all about it. It explains to you how the instructions work in this kit. It tells you the kind of tools that you're going to need. Basically gives you an idea of how to break construction down. They say hull construction, deck and deck furniture, mast and yards, and then rigging, and that'd be right. So, you know, you could probably take a month on the hull, a month on the deck, a month on mast and yards, and a month on the rigging, if you're moving at a good pace. But really, if this is your first ship, I'd take a year or two to build it. I would take your time, enjoy it. Wooden ships are not to be rushed. They're not like plastic kits. It's not a Tamiya kit where you just throw it together, right? No, no. You have to make this happen. It's organic. All you've got is pieces of wood. And although you have got the luxury of the laser cutting, yes, that certainly has taken away a lot of that work that we used to do. But still, you're going to have to bend your planks. You're going to have to shape and taper your planks. You're going to have to basically build all the furniture that sits on the deck. You're going to have to taper and shape your masts and your yards. And then you're going to have to rig the whole thing. So there's a lot of you that goes into this kit. And that is the beauty of it, I think, is that a wooden ship kit becomes you. You know, you have put so much into it, so much blood, sweat, swearing, and tears. Parts list. This is pretty well what you get in every single wood ship kit. They list every single part, and every part is numbered. They'll tell you how many of them there are, because obviously you'll get some big numbers here. You'll find like here, a packet of eye pins, right? A packet of nails, 60 limewood planks, 70 mahogany planks, right? 55 silver ash deck and whale planking, all right? So they are, that limewood is the very light planks. They're the ones, they're thicker, they're 2 by 5, okay? They're thicker and they're used for the first layer of planking, but they're not pretty. It's just used to get the shape. And then you go over with very thin 0.6mm mahogany. Mahogany is a much prettier wood. And then the silver ash is a very dark wood, and you use that for doing the whale line and some of the edging, and it looks really nice, okay? And again, you get all of that, and Dave has gone through and ticked just about every box and said, yep, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that. They give you a spray map. Well, it's basically a wood map, so it shows you there all those parts. So we could even find out what those things are. We could actually look them up. We could go, well, what was part 62? And have a look over here in our instructions, and I'll look it up quickly. Main companionway side. So there you go. Part 62 is a companionway side. So that means that goes down into the deck, and that is basically where a ladder will go down inside. It's a companionway. And we've already had this piece out here, which is the false deck. Okay, we call it the false deck because you're going to put wood planks over the top of it. So again, it's another former piece. It just gives the shape, and on top of that, we'll actually put our wooden planks to make it look as it would as a ship. There are more here. This is the that's the false keel, as we call it. It's basically the forming, well, the backbone for all of the little former pieces, right? Ribs, if you want to call them. Real ships do have those, but they're not quite solid like that. They're actually pieces. So you actually, the whole interior of the ship, of course, is hollow, is empty, right? So they will have ribs that go up, and they'll have a keel, and it's done completely differently. How we build a model ship like this, and how a real ship is built, is chalk and cheese. But essentially, There are some techniques that are similar, and towards the end, well, we end up with a wooden vessel that can float in the water. So here's the bit that has already been done by Dave, okay? So he's already got all these pieces out. He's already started putting them together, and they give you instructions here on how to use clips to make sure that they line up. And then once you've got them in there, make sure that you start fairing, which I showed in that video. Okay, and I will show when I'm building this. So because all these little wooden pieces, okay, they're square at the end. It's right angles, okay? But your ship is a curve. So you have to get rid of all these hard edges, and you have to curve and smooth and what's called fair that out. And they go into detail to show you that. A lot of the wood kits I've got don't do that. They have like a one line somewhere, smooth the frame. And unless you really know what this is and why you should do it, you might go, oh, I don't know, and you don't do it. As the people who built the Bounty before me, they didn't know, they didn't do it, and they couldn't plank the ship properly because of it. Because if your frame is not smoothed and faired, your planks don't sit on there properly. There's a bit of chocking at the bow that they ask you to put in. I'd probably put in a bit more, but we'll see. It actually looks like these guys have thought it through, because if you work forward, and there's the false deck going in, they're showing you again how to fair that false deck so it actually matches the ribs. You get everything matching up, okay? And they also go into things here called Deadwood Areas, right? And I have done that. I'll have to show that when I do the Bounty thing. I'll show it here. This little section back here, right? It's cut out with a laser cutter that thickness, but you don't want it that thickness. You're going to put planks on that. You don't want a big fat thing plus the width of the planks. It's going to be far too wide at the end there when you put the rudder on. So the idea is that you shave that down and you smooth and you fair that down to it's almost a point, just less than a point. And the idea then is by the time you add your planking, is you're going to have basically a 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter and then a 0.6 millimeter. So you're going to have 2 millimeters on each side. So that's 4 millimeters more. It's quite a bit, okay? And this is probably about 4 millimeters wide. Put your teeth in, Harry. So you'll double the width of that if you don't feather this down. And then the idea is with those 4 millimeter, with the 2 millimeters on each side coming down, you end up with that width when the rudder joins on. This will all become more apparent later on, but you basically feather that to a point almost. And the same at the bow, right? You don't leave at the bow a big chunky lump like that. No, again, you shape and you basically fair that so you get the lovely point, which will match the shape on your deck. Your deck will have that point as well, remember? From our false deck when we put it in. Yeah, this is the transom blocks here. Now this is what I'm talking about adding what I would call chocking. This is all done at the stern, because at the stern here, I mean, you would have a lot of trouble trying to get planks in, see what's going on and get the shape right. There's just nothing there. And this is the thing, you've got a big expanse, there's obviously some sort of curve, it's hard to know what's going on. And that's what you do if you've got a bull nose on a ship like the Bounty. You don't just leave a big empty space and hope the planks will get round. You put some chocking in to form the shape. And that's what they're doing here. They're putting the transom blocks in. They're showing you exactly how to do that, how to fit them, and then how to start sanding and shaping them, which is exactly what I did on the Bounty. Okay, and then in they go, and then you shape the curve up to the stern. Shape, 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 cut, cut, cut. It couldn't be easier, really. I mean, normally they don't show you this in detail. They go, stick the blocks in, and it's got to look like this. And how you get from the blocks to the curves, unless you're a woodworker or you've got a lot of experience, you'll be lost. Here, these guys are brilliant. They are showing you how the curve works. They're showing you where to mark, showing you how to cut and how to chisel out and how to get the approximate shape, and then to work your way down slowly and sand until you get the shape that you need for basically the stern of the ship. Okay. Once you've got that, we're basically looking at some hull planking here, and they're starting to say, okay, let's check our planks and let's see if they fit against our fairing, and they're starting to get into the principles of hull planking. And lo and behold, Modellers Shipyard give you the breakdown of the 3 sections. Now, I've explained all this in my second balcony marina video where I talk about hull planking, and really I'm talking about all the theory and everything that you must understand before you even go and put the planks on. You must know all this stuff, and you must be very familiar with it, You just don't go and start putting planks on, hope for the best. You have to have a plan. And this is the plan for the ship. And they have already worked it out for you. It's so easy. This is lovely. You don't have to do trial and error and experiment. They're showing you the top region here where the planks pretty well remain untapered. That section, they've given the point here, point D, which you'll be able to find on your hull. You'll be able to go to your hull and go, okay, what's he on about? Oh, well, point D is obviously this point. There'll be a curved section that comes down to there. You'll be able to find it. Go, okay, there it is. And you'll be able to lay a plank there. It'll roll all the way to the bow and it'll end up here. And you'll know, oh, that's the point. That's it. Okay, I can do all my measurements off that. And then, so that would basically be what we call the whale line. Then he's got the second line, which is at the turn of the hull, because the hull curves in and then it curves back again to the keel. And he's given that line from basically the top of the rudder all the way through to the bow here. And you'll see now this is much narrower than here, so you will need to taper those planks. And then the bottom section, okay, drawn on the hull, he's given that as well. And although it looks like in this section those planks are going to be wider there than here, no, that's not true. Because remember, this curves underneath. This curves, okay? So here, this is curving right around. So these planks here, when viewed side on, will only be thin strips, thin edges. Okay, so when you look at it this way, that section will be pretty even. They will actually be tapering to that point. And you will work all that out by doing the measurement and the system that I showed in the Balcony Marina video 2. I explained that in detail, how to get your planks to fit. But they do that for you as well. This is just absolutely terrific. The amount of effort that has gone into this to make sure you have an enjoyable experience and you don't, blunder into the planking, make an absolute balls up of it, give up, throw the thing in the bin, or as in my case, sell it to some idiot at a ridiculous price. Said idiot being me. No, instead they're warning you here, and they're slowly explaining to you, you need to measure all your bulkheads, as they call them, all right, the formers. And you'll need to work out then how long that is, how many planks you're going to need, and therefore work out your taper. And they've got the little diagram there. So you don't need to do a spreadsheet. A lot of people got excited and said, oh, I can't do spreadsheets, I don't understand math. Oh. Other people said, send me a spreadsheet, Harry. Oh, good luck if you can follow my spreadsheets. But anyhow, you don't need that with this. Very simply, they're telling you, band A, away you go. Well, band A, they even say you may need to taper these planks. Not really. Band A, you hardly ever. You might need to do just a little bit, and you can kind of do that by eye. Okay. Band B is where you're going to have to seriously taper your planks. Okay, so band B, that is definitely still going to be a lot thinner than here, because although it's starting to turn, it hasn't turned completely. And then they go into how I did it, using the little draw pins and pressing things in, holding in place. And remember, this is only the first layer of planks. You're not too worried about prettiness on this layer. You're worried about function. You're hoping to get a very smooth shape. Because what you're doing is, this is the underwear of the ship. And if you've got crappy underwear and then you put on a tight-fitting shirt or skirt, it shows through and it looks revolting. The same principle applies here. If you do not get this right, it doesn't matter how good your planking is on the next layer, the irregularities, the mistakes, the bumps and the lumps and the bumps, they will all show through. So this is why these planks are thicker, so that you can get it right, you can sand it smooth. If you have to fill. I mean, the joy is getting it so you don't have to put any filler in. I managed to do that with my Bounty. I was so lucky. I got my first planking layer on, needed no filler. But I could have had a problem, and if I did, I would have just got some wood filler and put it in, filled it, because it's all going to get covered up. All right, so on they go. Now you can see here, this is where these planks have come together on the keel. And if they hadn't have tapered that keel in, all right, if they hadn't have faired that keel in there, this will end up too thick. Well, it doesn't look quite right in that photo, but that's what you're supposed to do anyway. All right, so they go on, and then you're going to put in your deck, okay? You're going to add here basically your gunnel, right, on the side here, which goes up the side on these little formers. And then you actually cut those formers away. This is what you do with these sort of ships. These little sticky up bits, right, here they're at the back here, they're only used to shape the stern of the ship, which gets higher. The Bounty didn't have, well, it did have that to a little way, had a little bit of that. But you don't keep those. They are cut away. You don't use them because they're completely out of scale. They are not how a ship is done. You will need your little clips here because you're adding that that gun all around there as well. The only way to hold that in place, because you've got no formers, is you have to hold it with those little clips. So eventually you end up with that shape, okay, which is very close to the shape I've got on the Bounty at the moment, my wooden Bounty, but we need to do the other side a lot more work. There are hints and tips all the way through the instructions, and here we go into the point of adding the rib here, which the rudder will sit on. So that gives you an idea of where that's supposed to sit, how it's supposed to go, okay? And then making sure that you cut the piece out that the rudder can sit in. All right. And then they say, okay, let's do the second layer. And even they say the second layer is basically a complete repeat of the first layer, but you're working with thinner planks. But if you've learned the technique doing the first layer, doing your second layer is a breeze. You'll still do all the same things. You'll already know the tricky points in the hull of where it's going to turn, where it's going to require wedges, where it's going to require steelers, all those sorts of things. All of that's explained in my Balcony Marina Part 2 video. Put the transom on. We put the real keel on, okay? The actual keel goes on last. Very strange. I mean, I didn't used to do that with my ships. We used to just have the former, and that included the keel, and we sort of put everything on, and that's how we did it. But all of these have a false keel, and it must be a better way of doing it, so we'll see. I imagine it gives you the ability to sand and smooth and get the hull shape so much easier because you haven't got a keel in the way that you're banging against and you haven't got the stem there. So fair enough. Okay. That's a better way to do it. We will learn as we go. See? Even Harry Houdini's learning stuff. Attaching the rudder, okay, and we've got lovely little metal pieces there which will actually let our rudder move probably. It'll probably be attached to a tiller, and some of these you turn the tiller and you don't get a hun. It's not a tiller hun. No, a tiller is a little piece there that turns the rudder, okay? And then things start happening very fast after this point. I mean, once you've got that hull done and the basic planking in, you're adding those teak pieces here to get the whale line and some trim lines, and it's already starting to look very smart, okay? And you're also setting some points here for your mast to go in later on. Planning ahead. And here we go, bowsprit goes in, and this is where normally you would jump to a giant plan. And they go, no, they say here, refer to sheet 35. Oh dear, where's sheet 35? And lo and behold, sheet is actually page. Ta-da! Here's all your instructions for your bowsprit here. Now you've got to be careful because they say not to scale, all right? So let's have a look. They say this piece here should be 94 long and they're less than half. Well, actually it's 65, it's 2/3. So these, you know, they're not scale drawings, they're just giving you an idea how it goes together. That's not too bad really, because you just basically cut your piece to 94, okay? And here it'll even give you the lengths for the other pieces, and you start to assemble it. And really what they're showing you here in detail is how this should be tied together, what kind of blocks to use or to attach, what kind of cordage. More of that later. Okay, so moving along. You'll then put in banisters, which you attach railings to. You'll make up those lovely little ship's boats, okay? They're little models in themselves. You'll then get the transom all planked up, and you'll put on the little bit of lovely little piece that they've provided the kit, which is the decoration of the transom. You start to put in some of the little ports on the side of the ship. No guns on this, so they're not gun ports, they're just ports for people to look out of, okay? Here we're building little mesh pieces which are basically on the side here, because remember this is a merchant ship, so there's mesh and there's things to hold and stow things. You've got your figurehead on your bow here, okay? Not much in the way of head rails, very simple arrangement compared to most of your fighting ships which have got lots of head rails. It's much more complicated. And for any of you that don't know, this is the toilet on the ship. You may have heard the expression, I'm going to the head. It's the toilet. And why is it at the front of the ship, you might ask? Well, the wind comes from behind, okay? So with the wind from behind, all that poopy smell goes out the front of the boat and doesn't make everyone on deck go, oh, yep, Johnson's taking a whiz, I can smell it. Okay, now you're building up things of detail on the deck, and we call these the fittings, okay, all the furniture, deck fittings, deck furniture, that sort of thing. So we're making up little blocks, little sort of hatches and cabins here that actually open to doors that have companionways. So that's literally where the stairs go down into the boat, okay? So these are all-weather covered companionway tops. So they just call it a companionway. All right, okay. I would have thought it had another name. You've got cargo hatches, because again, it's a merchant ship, so these are going to be fairly prominent. You've got the winch, or I would call that a windlass, and that is for basically lifting up the anchor. You've got pumps, for obviously getting water out of the ship, because these things still tend to fill with water. I mean, there's water splashing in from the deck, and you may get a leak inside, so you need these bilge pumps sucking the water out of the bottom of the ship, out of the, around the keel, and getting it out. You don't want that stinking water in there. Detail. You just basically follow the ball. Look how beautifully illustrated this is. Everything is very clear. There are diagrams when it needs to be explained, right? And the photos will then show you from various angles how it should look. So easy. I mean, that Constructo kit, you've got tiny little photos, which are very ambiguous. You've then got these drawings, which are, well, artistic drawings to say the least. They are roughly kind of what it might look like in a cartoon world. Yeah, and you really have to know your way around boats to know what they're trying to actually tell you. Then you're going to build up your pin rail stands, and basically I would call these stanchions, but I don't think they call them that, and all your belay points. And these will go in, and these will be where all the rigging lines come to, most of them. Most of your rigging lines will come down and they get tied to these belay pins. And this is your final bit here. They're basically just talking about the boat here. They've actually got the assembly of the boats, although I showed it back there. But anyhow, the assembly of the boats, how to strap them down, which I did wrong on the Bounty. I was following some photos that I had, and I actually added my pins down on the hatch. There's one guy pointed out to me, how are they going to be able to open the hatch if you've got bloody, cordage and ropes tied to the hatch? Well, you're going to have to take the boat off anyway with this, but anyhow, they were correct, I wasn't. And show you that you're going to basically rig one of the little boats to sit off the stern. It's rather nice. Everywhere you go, there are these lovely little diagrams, and they tell you, use this size rope, use these kind of blocks, put these holes. Everything is, there's no ambiguity. It doesn't just say, stick some stuff on there. You can find the exact part that you need, like T here. It'll tell you T is here. It is a 2-hole 4mm block. Okay, boom, easy to find. All right, all the photos are numbered and they're referred to nicely. All the correct nautical terms are used in here, which is good. So when they say something where you can see it, you'll learn the name. So you know, oh, that is my jolly boat, and these are davits. You will learn all of that as you go. Okay, as you go. Now, this is the first time, we won't get this all in shot, this is an actual scale drawing. It's the only one we seem to get in the whole kit. And this shows you basically where all that deck furniture is going to go. Okay, so you'll see here, this is basically is your forward companionway. All right, so that is where the stairs go. So it's all weather. In the Bounty, the companionways were basically exposed. I think they might have had a hatch that goes over them, but basically they're pretty well exposed. Number 2 should be the main companionway, yeah. And because it's only got 2 masts, there isn't a stern companionway. Here's your tiller here, so I was talking about before, okay. There's your jolly boat. These are your various belay points all over the place, and you've got them around each mast. Only 2 masts, remember? One there, one there. And here's your pumps. There they are there. Okay, what's 7? Ship's bell. All right, so you got your ship's bell is there. And then here is where you have got your windlass, or as they call it, winch. Well, a windlass is a winch, but it's that peculiar kind of winch that's got the big legs out on it. All right. So there you go. It hasn't got one of those winches that are in the middle of the ship with all the rods sticking out. It doesn't seem to have one of those. There you go. Basque will be very happy. Those are the cat's heads. Meow. Okay. All there. Beautifully, simply, and quite nicely illustrated. And that whole section lifts out. Okay, you'll see there, you can take that out. It's not connected to anything else, so you can use that as a plan on the side as you're building. Okay, now they get into the masts. Okay, so here you will build the floating platforms, and they'll go through all the steps, what to do, how to make it cross pieces. It's all there. It's very easy to follow. If you'd seen my Bounty video, or the Revell Plastic Bounty, I built all of those sort of things from scratch out of plastic. And again, here we go, not to scale, but it will basically tell you again how to build the masts, how to build your yards, how everything goes together. It will give you the block keys. So basically it'll tell you it is this block, it is a 2-hole, 4mm block, it is a T. So if you, or here, you need an H block, okay? An H block has 1 hole and it's a 5mm block. You can't get it wrong. You'll know which block goes where. Whereas I had to refer to diagrams, keep checking things, and work my way through when I was doing my rigging on the Bounty. But I pretty well knew where everything went anyway. But still, I had to double check everything as I went and see what I needed. Whereas here, you have the exact block for the purpose that it is meant for and how to fit it. Joy. And it will show you, fit those blocks to the mast as you build it, which does make your life a lot easier. It really does, especially when you're working at this scale. So again, you go on to your next mast, main mast, what to do, same again. And here was your bowsprit with dolphin striker. Yep. Sadly, those poor little dolphins got their little heads hit. Yes. Oh, look, if they're silly enough to bob up and down the front of the boat, it's supposed to be an intelligent species, goodness me. Okay, moving right along. Now I've upset all the greenies. Oh, bug you. I don't care. Oops, oh dear, something fell down. Bask, you're knocking one of my ships down. Ugh. Okay, 4-mast yards. Okay, again, just basically telling you how to shape, how to fit, how to assemble, and then how to add blocks. And away you go. I mean, I did a whole video of the Bounty just on how to rig the sail, or literally put the pulleys on the yards and do all that. This is a thing in itself just to get this all right, well before you put sails on. And we won't be putting sails in this kit. And the reason is they're not in the kit. And I don't think it needs it. I don't think it needs it at all. So you've got all kinds of things. You've got your gaff here. I'll show you how to do that. You'll add parrels to that. The duck will be very happy. He likes parrels. Very big about parrels. And then it goes into basically how you're then going to start attaching these. So you're going to use the various lines that I showed in the Bounty rigging video. These lines are all repeated. It's all the same stuff again. Okay, so, but we will go into more detail. Okay, so again, we get a diagram here. This one's not to scale, it doesn't have to be. These are what is called the belaying plan. So this lets you know all those little pins, little belay pins, right, that sit in holes that you tie ropes off to. It tells you what each one is. Well, at least it gives you all the numbers. So as you go, you basically tie your ropes off to various belaying pins. A simple rule of thumb is if it's lower on the mast, your line, it goes to a front pin. If it's higher on the mast, it successively goes to a further aft or further rear pin. And that way all your lines sit nicely, okay? So, you know, and one that's low goes to one that's forward. One that's middle goes to a middle pin. One that's the top goes to a back pin. And then all your lines sit nicely. It's very simple, very logical. Ships make sense. Every rope on a ship has a purpose. Every rope on a ship goes from A to B, and it's meant to do that. It has a function and it has a complete logic to it. I like it. All makes absolutely ordered sense. And here we get a lovely diagram showing basically our standing rigging or our fixed rigging, and they will show you how to go through with it. You'll do your forestays, you'll do your backstays, you'll do your shrouds, and then you will do your rat lines across, okay? So it goes through all of that. And very, very easy ship to rig. Normally I'll rig from the stern to the bow. You could do it the other way with this. It's so small, you've only got 2 masts to contend with, and it's very simple rigging. You know, you've only got 4 lines and 4 lines. Very simple, very easy. This will be a joy to rig. I'll be able to get my hands, I mean, you have a look. I get 2 hands between the masts on this. On the Bounty, I could probably get 2 fingers between the mizzen mast and the mainmast. It was that, and I was lucky if I could get a hand in between the mainmast and foremast. And yet we still rigged it. We still rigged it. Okay, so on it goes, and I won't belay the point here. But there is some beautiful photographs, explanations, the keys here, which tell you what cord, what block to use, how it's done. And, you know, look at this, it's even colour-coded. You don't paint your ship those colours, right? You don't paint them those colours. This is just so you can see this one, what they are. This is the 4 topmast stay. This is the preventer stay. This is the forestay. There they are. It is beautifully done. You don't have to be an expert on rigging. you would be able to just follow the bouncing ball here, do it in the order they say, which is exactly the order I would do anyway, and away you go. Now, this is something I did not do on my plastic bounty because it was too small. But these are the dead eyes, and this is where you're going to create the base for your shrouds. And this is quite a complex thing to do, but it's actually a lot of simple things all done one after the other, and then it becomes a big complex thing. They break all that down, they show you how it all works, they even show you how it ties up on the mast. I won't talk much more about that now, but basically they have 4 or 5 pages just on how to get that right. So, you know, your life is made so easy. All right, and everything's there, the knots are explained, away you go, and again, now you get rigging diagrams for your masts. I did some simplified ones of those when I did the bounty video, but basically here is your entire rigging diagram to show you how to get those lifts. These are your lifts. Then you've got other lines here which are going to be lines for your sheets and your clews and all those things. They're all there. They're all explained and shows you how to prepare for them and then how to get them in. Okay, beautifully done. And then you've got your basically your booms and here for your spanker at the rear. And again, shows you what to do. It says start here, go here. What order to do it in. It's lovely. It's so good. It is so good. And we'll do things differently. In the bounty, I actually would put my line at the belay point, tie it off, and then run it backwards up to the mast and up to the section where I go. That was easier on a very small plastic ship where you have little room to move. It was easier to run backwards. We'll rig this one correctly. We will start up on the yard or wherever it's tied. We'll run through and then down to the belay point and tie it off. Why? Because we can actually get our fingers in because it's nice and big. And that is the correct way to do it. And it will look so much better because we actually are using belay pins and it will work really nicely. And on it goes. Okay, so we even get to do this. Ooh, crow's nest feet or crow's feet. I used to call it crow's nest feet. No, it's crow's feet. There you go. And again, here's another thing, the braces, all your braces are explained. And then finally, even flags, where they go, how they are, okay? And a bit of final photos on a few belay points, a few ways to tie things just in case, you know. And when you're done, that is what you end up with. It is a beautiful little ship. It's just a brig, colonial brig, but there's a lot of potential with this ship. There's not as much rigging as a bounty, but we can do more things. So we'll be running a few extra lines that I didn't run on the bounty because we have the room to get our hands in and we can basically put blocks and we can run them. Not only that, they're in the kit, they're there. Might as well use them, might as well do it. So this will be so much fun. So there you go. That is the Modellers Shipyard Perseverance. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you can see these guys make a beautiful model. And they make some smaller kits. So if you don't want to sell something this big and spend 50 shekels, they have smaller, you know, little single mast, little boats and things that again you would have just as much fun and just as much enjoyment from. And if the standard of their instructions and layout and quality of everything else is the same, and I'm sure it would be, then they will be a joy to build. But anyhow, I hope you watch along with me as I build the Brig Perseverance. Okay, it will be fun. It'll be, oh look. Wood shipbuilding is just relaxing, joyful and enjoyable, at least for me. And I hope you'll see that as I proceed with this build. All right, that's it. That's all I got to say. There's nothing more to say. I think Bass probably needs feeding. That's probably why she's at my feet at the moment, biting my ankles, which is why I'm getting some words wrong because I'm suffering a lot of pain here. So we'll leave it there. That's it for now. It's goodbye from Australia and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.